Karen said that amendment number 2 took her breath away when it was explained. Well, I agree with her. It takes my breath away, but amendment number 4 does even more to me than that. It is very alarming, and I hope it will be alarming to everyone on this call, on this meeting. It is known as the Education Accountability Amendment, which sounds very, very nice. We all want accountability in education. We want the education of our future, of our students, to be the very, very best that it can be. But I'm here to tell you, this is totally a power grab, the way we look at it, the way we view this. The purpose of this amendment is to clarify the rules and policies promulgated by the State Board of Education, and they would be subject to legislative review, approval, amendment, or total rejection. This means that any rule or policy created by the West Virginia Board of Education could be overruled or changed by the state legislature. The legislature would micromanage and approve all policies, waiver requests, curriculum, and other decisions by the State Board of Education. Additionally, it would affect local boards due to the many local issues that ultimately end up needing State Board of Education approval. For example, routine waivers for employing a retiree in a content shortage subject area to obtain a certified teacher is a very common practice. It would need legislative approval for each occurrence if this amendment is approved by voters. This amendment is an attempt to usurp the constitutional power of the State Board of Education with trickle-down effects on county boards of education as well. And AFT goes on record opposing this amendment. We are having meetings all across the state. We had a meeting the other evening in Wheeling. We're going to Raleigh County next Tuesday evening, I believe. We're going to be in Berkeley County on the 24th or the 25th of this month. We've been meeting with our local affiliates throughout the state, but I was at a State Board of Education meeting yesterday, and Deborah Sullivan, one of the appointed board members of the board members we have with the State Board of Education, made a statement, and it is so eloquently written, so eloquently presented. I asked her if I could share her statement because I think this really gets to the heart of the matter. And Mrs. Sullivan, who is a former principal at Charleston Catholic High School, said that she would be honored for me to share her statement with you. So I would like to do that now. She said, proposed amendment 4 politicizes and further imperils public education in West Virginia by undermining the State Board of Education and ultimately the county boards of education as well. The State Board of Education has just one issue in front of it, and that is education. The legislature, by contrast, deals with many issues and can give any one of those issues only a fraction of its attention. The bulk of our efforts focus on education policy and deciding upon county requested waivers to existing policies. Policy work is serious business, and it demands serious attention. To accomplish this work, the board follows a well-defined, inclusive policy development, comment, and adoption process. It is time-tested and it works. And I'll explain something that happened yesterday just to underline the fact that it does work. The board process depends on input from the public, educators, taxpayers, parents, legislators, anyone really who wishes to have a voice in the education of our children. Draft policies are developed and revised with extensive collaboration from educators and others all over the state. Ample time is allowed for submission of written comments from the public. Each comment receives careful consideration by content area specialists and legal experts at the Department of Education and in the field, and by board members. We depend upon this feedback to ensure that policies are supportive of our student achievement and personnel development, reflect state and federal code as appropriate, incorporate best practices, and are clearly written. The state board sets no limits on who or how many may comment or how long their comments may be. And every single comment, both the comment and the response to it, is kept on file in the Secretary of State's office. By contrast, we have seen the legislature act precipitously on the most critical issues with little or no opportunity for public input, and sometimes apparently with little notice to its own members. Notably, when public hearings or public comment is scheduled during a legislative hearing, strict time limits are set, and sometimes that can be as little as 30 seconds for someone to speak to an issue. And generally, there are a few legislators in attendance to listen to the public speakers. Not much can be said, and not much is heard. The real problem with proposed Amendment 4 is that it politicizes education decision-making, content, and practices. Politics is volatile, subject to abrupt change. One thing that teachers can tell you is that the management of education needs continuity, consistency within the individual life of a student. Proposed Amendment 4 would erode our school's ability to ensure that stability. It would also serve to distance those tasked with running our classrooms from the very policies that affect them. Teachers would be expected to take orders from people who know a good deal less than they do about the important business of education. Those working with our youngest residents and those young residents themselves deserve better than this. We look at this as nothing more than a power grab. You know, our State Board of Education, our state board members are appointed by the governor to serve 9-year terms, and they're staggered. And that brings about a great deal of stability with our board members. Our political legislators and senators, they are elected senators for 4 years, but it's an every 2-year cycle with them. And our House of Delegates are elected for 2-year terms. So the legislative body changes every 2 years. That's not stable. We really are concerned about the passage of this amendment because we feel that it opens the door to things like book banning. And if you remember this past legislative session, the hot topic was critical race theory, which is not a thing in our public schools. We do not have critical race theory in our standards. And we said many times that bill that they brought forth about critical race theory was just an answer to a problem that does not exist in our public schools in West Virginia or across the nation for that matter. It is taking power away from local communities, and it puts it into the hands of politicians in Charleston. It eliminates protections for our local schools and our local school boards. So we urge people to vote no on Amendment 4 for the reasons that I said. But let me give you a perfect example of what happened yesterday at the Board of Education. They had a policy out on review for 30 days. It was policy 2419, which deals with special education, the rules for special ed in our state. There were over 350 comments within that 30-day period. 100 of those comments brought about change in that policy, and it was a very much needed change in that policy. I think that goes to prove that our appointed board members do their job. They work with the Department of Education, with the legal department within the Department of Education, and the experts in the Department of Education to try and get things right. Are they perfect? Absolutely not. And I've disagreed with the State Board of Education many times, but they are there they will listen. And I think that they need to continue to be able to do their job unencumbered by the whims of our legislative body. So my timer just went off. I hope I did Amendment 4 justice. If you have any questions that I can answer, I certainly will try to answer those questions, but I think we're just in very dangerous grounds if we try to give the control of our education system here in West Virginia to the hands of our legislators. Thank you very much.